Well, Alabama had a scrimmage Saturday. Did we learn anything? I'm seriously asking.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, Alabama had a much-awaited yet not really well-attended scrimmage by design. And frankly, I don't know much yet. I know the bits and pieces I've been able to gather. The first thing, and we'll talk about what Saban said in just a bit, but the first thing that stood out to me was there are at least some folks who have the opinion that while nobody has looked fantastic, Jalen Milroe may be taking the reins at quarterback. Look at that form right there on this picture I just posted. That's perfect form. I watched Hard Knocks the other day, and that's how Aaron Rodgers throws it.
Well, Aaron's pretty good. In terms of, quarterback, to me, we probably should do the whole show on quarterback because it's what everybody talks about, what everybody cares about, and to some extent that's logical and understandable. Whether Jalen Milroe has won the job or has taken over, I consider that more rumor than fact. I don't know that that's true. I'm not reporting it as true. We don't know. I think that's probably rumor and maybe exaggeration, but I also think that it is very possibly true because this is the way, this has been going on for quite a while now. And what I would call, there's several markers in the quarterback battle. Bryce went down. He was replaced by Jalen Milroe, not Ty Simpson. It was Jalen Milroe that replaced Bryce Young and not Ty. And Jalen started a game and a half. And then Bryce left, and we get to spring practice. And practice number one, who takes the first snap with the first team? Jalen. And who does that for the next 14 practices, including A-Day? Jalen. Ty played with the twos on A-Day. Jalen played with the ones. Then you get to fall camp. Has Ty overtaken him? Has Buckner overtaken him? No. Day one of fall camp, it's Jalen. Then you get to the open practice. Who takes the most snaps with the ones at the open practice in front of the public? Jalen. Okay, now you get to the first scrimmage. Who starts the scrimmage? Who plays with the ones reportedly the most and first? Jalen. So we're kind of getting to the point that if one of the other guys is going to start the Middle Tennessee game, we better be getting to it. You know what I mean? They need more reps because Jalen seems to be getting the first ones and very possibly the most ones. So, in terms of whether Jalen's taken over, whether he's in control, you have to consider it rumor and not fact. But it also looks that way, right? We're talking about, looking like a duck and quacking like a duck. Jalen Milroe has all the looks of the starter. He plays with the ones first and more than the other guys. And on top of that, at most of these things has reportedly outperformed the other guys. Which is even more important. I don't think he necessarily outperformed Ty Simpson on A-Day. I thought Ty might have played a little better, but you also have to take into consideration who they're doing it against. Jalen's playing against the first team defense. Ty's playing against the backup defense. Plus, we had a lot of guys out. That basically meant Ty was playing a lot of threes out there, while Jalen was also missing. They were missing some first team defenders, but Jalen was playing against nothing but ones and twos. Ty was playing against twos and threes. So you have to take that into consideration when you're like, well, Ty played better. Like, for instance, I see a lot of people on the Dylan Lonergan train. I am too. I'm super high on Dylan. If any quarterback right now just up and left the roster and hit the portal, I would be most devastated over Dylan leaving. So don't say I'm not on the Dylan train. I'm just pointing out that when people get excited about Dylan and how good he is, he's doing all he's doing against the threes, which are true freshmen and walk-ons. That is absolutely not getting it done against a first-team SEC defense or an elite defense like LSU or Georgia. So I just let's give Lonergan time to develop into a college football player before we assume he can beat Georgia in the national championship game. Now, what do we think about, whether Milroe's a starter? This is, my position all along has been this. I think Ty's going to be the quarterback. Said that since December. Where I changed was sometime this summer, where my feeling changed was, I still think Ty's going to be the quarterback of this team, and Ty will ultimately win the job. But I think Jalen's going to start Middle Tennessee and probably even Texas. I'm definitely even more adamant about point 2. I'm more adamant that the season's going to start with Jalen Milroe at quarterback. And I'll just predict, I'll still believe Ty Simpson will win the job because I think Ty's the most talented kid. I think based on what I've put together, my feelings and what little I've seen or know, I think with Ty, it's been a very big adjustment on the speed of the game. This is like coming from playing high school football in rural West Tennessee. That's kind of the equivalent of 2A or 3A football in Alabama. And that's just not going to get you ready to play SEC football in terms of how quickly everything moves. I think athletically he can catch up, but it all has to go faster. The mental part too, and it just appears that Ty makes too many errors, probably as a result of playing faster than he's comfortable with. Well, that's going to come with time, and I know myself, I'm still going to be patient with Ty Simpson as he's still a redshirt freshman catching up with the speed of SEC football. I think Jalen Milroe, being 1 year older, coming from big high school football in Texas, Jalen played in one of the top classifications in Houston, Texas. He's played in SEC football games. He's seen it before. He's a really bright kid. I think that's one of the things that's kind of lost in all the quarterback, talk. I mean, Milroe, Simpson, and Buckner are all very bright kids, and that's helpful. I just think we are headed towards Jalen Milroe starting these first couple of games, and then someone else will play if or when Milroe falters, and that's going to be an interesting thing, right? Because he's not going to be perfect. Of course, he's going to make mistakes. He's a redshirt sophomore quarterback playing in the SEC. There's going to be mistakes. Bryce Young made mistakes. Bryce didn't play well last year against LSU. We lost the game. I mean, Bryce wasn't perfect either, and he was the first pick in the draft. So Milroe's going to have his struggle moments. He's going to make some bad decisions and make some bad throws because he's human. Let's see how many of them. If there's too many, they're going to give someone else a shot, whether it's Ty Simpson or Tyler Buckner. But that's just how I feel about it today. And there's one more scrimmage to go, and a lot can happen. Luke's muted. Luke is muted. It's Sunday, though.
So mad.
Sunday. Do not, the mute button doesn't rest on Sunday.
It makes me so mad.
Book commands.
Jeez Louise. Okay. And again, people, this isn't a bit that we do. This is complete and utter ignorance. That's all it is. And if y'all knew how mad I don't want to do this. I want to be better at this gig. I want to be. I'm just not. And I'm sorry. Thank you for continuing to watch. Jeez, I'm so mad at myself. All right, Jimmy, what I was going to say, hey, maybe Nick Saban needs to check out LinkedIn Jobs for his quarterback. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Look, all you got to do is go to LinkedIn Jobs to add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you are hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and who you'd like to hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to and helps you find them faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Just linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions may, and I'm almost willing to bet they will apply. On the next Locked On Bama, we're going to be talking some more scrimmage, I'm sure. and more practice. And, it's going to remain to be seen if we know a heck of a lot more. We'll be getting you ready for the next scrimmage, too. Jimmy, I know you're going to the scrimmage next Saturday, potentially, maybe.
Potentially. We'll see.
Potentially.
We'll see.
Allegedly.
Scheduling and other things could happen, but potentially.
So, yeah, we will certainly be getting you ready for the next scrimmage as well. I want to throw one quick thing out there for everybody. I got yesterday, Jimmy, I went to Top Golf, and one of my friends was there with his two sons, and one of his sons is like a savant when it comes to NFL and college football. Huge Bammer, huge NFL fan too, like plays fancy. He's like 10 or 11 or something, somewhere in that neighborhood. And he's been knowing stuff forever, and just a really cool kid. And we connect. He and I are buddies because we speak the same language on this stuff. Anyway, funny story. We are all friends with a singer, a very popular singer from this area. I will not name him. Should, but I won't. And he's a famous dude. He's made a ton of money, done well, kick butt, whatever. I'm happy for him. I ain't mad at him. And so my friend was showing his son, like, yeah, this is, the singer we all know, and showing him some videos about his past and whatever. And then somehow our YouTube channel came up, and he had said, Mr. Luke is on YouTube. And he said, oh my God, Mr. Luke's famous. And he saw me and he said, I want to be on your podcast sometime. I was like, you will be. So, and he said, I want you to go follow my podcast. So here's my only thing. And I'm sorry I rambled because I know this is Locked On Bama, but this is a big Bama kid. Y'all could do me a favor. Please go subscribe to @SportsHarrio, his YouTube page. He's just, all he's doing is making YouTubes and having fun, and you'd make his day. So I've already done it through a few channels, and I'd appreciate it. So again, just something I'm throwing out there. If you want to make a little Bammerling, if you want to make his day, that's what you can go do. Okay, let's go back to some things that Nick Saban said after this scrimmage, because he had some interesting comments. As I'm trying to find them, he basically brought up that he brought up the fact that there apparently were some drops. Now, he didn't say there were a lot of drops. He didn't say that. He just said, one thing that we need to do if you're a receiver is you need to receive the ball, and that means catch it. And I feel like we could do better in that regard. Now, a lot of people have taken that to mean, oh my God, we are in a lot of trouble and we can't catch the ball at all. Maybe, but I think he's more just trying to. I don't take it as negatively as that. Do you? Do you take it like the receivers had a bad day?
I took it as the receivers didn't have the day that he wanted to see. I think he's upset with too many drops. Now, how many is too many? I would think, some coaches will tell you 1 is too many. Some coaches, 2 to 4, that's too many. 10 or 12 is ridiculous, but there could have been 1, and that's too many, right? Because, drops are really bad plays. So, we would need more context to know, but I do think because drops were an issue on A-Day, and he mentioned drops as being an issue, and I think he used the word again, when he said drops, it is apparently a thing with this group. I'm worried, or concerned is probably a better term. I'm concerned over it because it's a repeated thing. But one thing that I'm not super worried about is there are 6 receivers at the top of this rotation right now, 6. And Jermaine Burton and Ja'Cory Brooks are 2 veteran receivers. The other 4 are in their first or second year of SEC football, going into year 2 or into year 1. So if Malik Benson, Isaiah Bond, Kobe Prentice, and Kendrick Law occasionally drop a football, I'm not hugely concerned about that, because I just chalk that up to being typical of young receivers in this league. And I'm sure it's something that most of them will grow out of. So I'm not worried about this to the point of losing sleep, but it is a concern. It has to be some level of concern because it's a concern to Nick Saban, or he wouldn't mentioned it in that mood he was in, because I thought Coach was sort of grumpy, frankly. Now, a lot of it could do with the fact that it was 184 degrees in Tuscaloosa yesterday during that scrimmage. So that's going to get anyone cranky. So again, I don't think this is such a debilitating problem. The team won't be competitive, but I do think it's a legitimate concern and something they need to improve on. I just point to, why are we recruiting the wrong players? Are they just not good? Now, I think it's youth. 4 of the top 6 players are not just young, but very young. So hopefully it's something they'll just grow out of.
But now look, I said I wasn't going to be negative, but now I'm going to push back on what you said a little bit. Yeah, we're young, but we're kind of always young now because our guys leave early that are good, right? I mean, I think everybody's going to be young for the most part, even if it means young in your own program, like you got a transfer who is a senior.
Right.
I think everybody's going to have to deal with youth and or inexperience when it comes to your own program. So, one other thing I want to throw out there, and I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and post this. This is a video from the Alabama official football site, and this just had some highlights from the scrimmage. It's only about a minute long, so bear with me. And if you are listening, just listen because there is sound to it. And if not, we'll talk over it. Jimmy, can you hear me now? All right, I hope you guys can hear me. Oh, can't unmute Jimmy. I hope you guys can hear me, but the highlights here. See, carry on it's kind of ironic. We were just talking about the problems with receivers. Jimmy, I hope you can hear me. I couldn't unmute you for some reason, so it probably sounded goofy to people who were listening. Because I was talking, I saw your mouth moving like you were talking, and anyway, just
I don't know what anybody could hear, but that probably wasn't a good segment for the non-YouTubers.
I know. I mean, surely they'll forgive me. But it's kind of ironic. We were talking about receivers with the dropsies, and there were some really nice highlights in there for receivers.
Yeah, well, we have a good group. I mean, I'm excited about them. I really am, and they are young. As Luke points out, they're college football players. They're all young. But I think when you're going into year 2, you're still pretty young. And going into year 1, like Malik Benson, I mean, he just hasn't played SEC football at all yet. So I still think it is a young group, even for elite college football programs. But they will have their bad moments, as any college football player does. I remember in his final year at Alabama, some of our fans were getting on Julio Jones, for dropping too many balls, even in his final year at Alabama. And then, and of course, as we know, Julio went on to have a Hall of Fame NFL career at wide receiver. Again, I'm more worried. I mean, I would list drops by the receiving core as a concern, but I wouldn't put it at the top of the list. Top of the list for me is quarterback. And I'm not saying that as a shot at Jalen Milroe. I'm saying it as he hasn't played very much. And when he did play, there were issues with turnovers. And that's exactly what gets you beat. And until he plays in games and shows us he can protect the football better than he has, it is completely legitimate to be concerned about that. But at the same time, I recognize that he was a very young player a year ago. He's now a year older. These kids can make dramatic improvements from one year to the next. And one thing to be excited about with Jalen is, as opposed to Ty and Tyler and Dylan and Eli, Milroe has the highest ceiling of all of them. if all of them develop into being as good a player as they can possibly be, Miller would probably be the best, because I think he's got the most spectacular skill set of all of them. But, he's also been error prone to this point to his defense. So was Buckner, who threw 3 interceptions in his last start. And of course, Ty Simpson, who's made too many errors to move up to the first team line at Alabama. So we'll see. But I think the wide receiver drops I have as a concern, but below some other things like starting quarterback.
All right, Jimmy, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the scrimmage talk. And we're back. So Jam Miller apparently had some nice moments yesterday at running back, to nobody's surprise. I know in that highlight you saw Roydell Williams really carry a group of people with him into the end zone. And so Roydell Williams actually got a lot of run with the ones, apparently. Now, Jam Miller, boy, I heard you on your podcast that you do for Bama Online, and you were talking about, it just seems like Jam Miller's always jammed up with some kind of injury. I mean, and it's nothing debilitating. It's nothing like cost him the year. It's just a thigh bruise or a strained groin or whatever.
Yeah, second injury of this fall camp.
Yeah, and that worries you because, again, in a perfect world, you don't get worried about that so much. But when somebody begins to get a string of injuries, you're like, hey, it's not their fault. It's just that they are injury prone for whatever reason. Nobody can put their finger on it. But that's a guy that I think a lot of fans expect a lot of this year. They love the fact that he had a big run. I thought somebody posted that he had a 50-some-odd yard run yesterday. Wonderful.
That was a strong rumor.
Strong rumor.
That he had a big run before he hurt before he developed the thigh bruise. Yeah, when Jam is healthy, he's a really good player, and I'm excited about him. And here's the good news: is it's a thigh bruise. He'll probably be 100% for next Saturday's scrimmage, probably.
Right, but again, hey, look, let's get through a scrimmage without getting hurt, and let's just see how it goes. Again, there's nothing he can do about that. If you get hurt, you just get hurt. I understand. There's really nothing you can change, but it's just wild how some guys tend to get hurt a lot more often, and they do the exact same stuff as other folks. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. I hope he can get a little better. Did you hear anything about the defensive lines? Anything like that? I did say one other thing I want to throw out there before you go on, because I'm going to let you rant in a second. Terrion Arnold apparently looked good.
Yeah, good player. Good player. I mean, I'm really high on Terrion, always have been. I like Trey Amos, the cornerback they brought in from Louisiana. I think Amos and Arnold, that's a great battle because those are two really good players. I think we would be thrilled with either one. Hey, if Amos is good enough to get Arnold off the field, goodness, he's something then, because Terrion Arnold's a really good player. And he's going to be tested a lot this year because teams just aren't going to throw it Kool-Aid. They're going to throw it Arnold. So he's going to give up some because it's impossible not to. But I think Terrion Arnold is a heck of a player that's getting better, and he had a nice scrimmage. Defensive line's coming along okay. I know Coach Saban would like more defensive linemen to step up and prove they're ready to be consistently good down to down. Coach Saban specifically noted that Jaheim Otis has had a great camp. Justin Boydby's had a great camp. That shouldn't surprise us in the least. Those are two really good football players that are proven good players. He mentioned that Tim Smith could use some more consistency. And you know what? That's not surprising to hear, right? Because for 3 years going into this year, that's been the thing with Tim Smith, is not playing great for 60 minutes. He flashes. He makes a play here, a play there, but it hasn't been a consistently good player down to down. He's still working on that. Hopefully he'll make some strides there. Coach Saban mentioned that 2 or 3 other guys are also pretty good players. He didn't mention them by name, but they would be playing with the first team. We felt at BOL he's probably talking about Damon Payne, Jamarian Latham, and maybe James Smith or Tim Keenan. I think those are kind of the next guys in line to play behind the first 3. I think the defensive line group is going to be very good. I don't think they'll rank with the all-time groups in Alabama history, but I think they're going to be good compared to the rest of college football. And I'm more and more excited about this defense. I think we've made a concerted effort this fall in camp to run the ball and be more physical. That's only going to help the defense. So I'm excited to see what this defense does on the field, partly against Middle Tennessee, but mostly, in the real challenge, which is week 2 against Texas. Man, and that's now here in less than 4 weeks, Luke. We play Texas in 27 days.
I mean, that's insane to think about. And by the way, I was listening to a national show this morning, and they were talking about how, we're all so excited for college football. But this first weekend, the Labor Day weekend that we all love. I mean, you got LSU, Florida State on Sunday, and that's great. I mean, I'm looking forward to that game. You've got Florida at Utah on Thursday night. I kind of wish that was on Saturday, but whatever. And then you got North Carolina, South Carolina, which I'm into because I love Drake May. I love the South Carolina story. I think it'd be a good game. Otherwise, you've got a crap fest. Now, you've got West Virginia, Penn State, and that may be a game that everybody sort of likes because of proximity. But, boy, Penn State's like a 17, 20-point favorite. Tennessee's like a 25-point favorite over Virginia. That game's in Nashville.
I think a good example, trying to set up my opening day. I've already looked at the TV schedule for opening day because I watch a bunch of games, but I always like to watch one game like, hey, this is the game I'm going to watch. And I know everybody's got a different standard for what it is that they're looking for in a game. But my opening day, 11 a.m., is probably Tennessee, Virginia. And that's only because I want to see Tennessee and Joe Milton. But I'm not expecting that game to be close or competitive. Virginia, I don't think is good even for Virginia. This is probably a down Virginia team. And I'm not sure what I'm going to learn about Tennessee, but in my mind, it's the best game at 11 a.m., according to my criteria. And then 2:30, even crazier for a guy in the South that would like to watch SEC football. But it seemed to me that the best 2:30 game is Washington versus Boise State, just to watch Michael Penix, who's going to be, a solid Heisman candidate, and Washington's a top 10, top 15 team. Boise's certainly competitive. But if that's the best game at 2:30 for a guy in the South, that's pretty. So it is pretty weak. Tennessee, Virginia, Washington, Boise. That's my 11 and 2:30 games. Just pretty weak.
And then a couple of other side notes. My point was, this first week in college football is kind of going to be like preseason football. Like, I'm so excited. Just give me any football. And then I watch preseason football, and I'm like, this isn't very much fun. And so what I hate is like Labor Day weekend, which I'm going to still sit in front of a TV and watch it all. I'm just saying that there are not a lot of great games that night. I mean, the best game is on Saturday is probably South Carolina, North Carolina. But anyway, a couple other notes. You brought up Tim Smith. Yesterday on the SEC Network, the 2020 SEC title game was on, and people may not remember, but late in that ball game, Will Anderson, true freshman, sack strips. What was the Florida quarterback's name? No, not Kyle Trask. Strip sacks him, and Tim Smith recovered, true freshman. So people forget that. I mean, like, Tim Smith's always had sort of those moments. I remember thinking when that happened in 2020, like, these two guys are going to be dudes. But
he's been in the first team rotation since he's been here, and that's impressive. It's impressive that he earns, because he earns those snaps. He earns those minutes. He's just got to, okay, now you're a senior. Now he can come back. And by the way, if he's still having consistency issues, he might want to consider coming back in 2024, to be honest. And he can through the COVID year. But, man, going into year 4, Tim, it's time to be an all-SEC football player.
And also, due to popular demand, I'm retiring the phrase Mechie with the catchy. It is not caught on. Several people in the comments said that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. I have heard your voices, and I shall adhere to those commands.
I prefer the mute button problem.
But I really thought I had a shot with that. I really did. Like, it just never caught on. But whatever. I will not say it again. So you're welcome, everybody. Okay, that's going to do it until tomorrow's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you a ton. Please go subscribe to @SportsHarrio, SportsHarrio on YouTube, and just make a little Bammerling's day. He'd appreciate it, and I would too. So until next time, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.